Good morning. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorene. Today I'm talking from the front hallway. The rest of the house is really dimly lit because it's just so dreary outside. The garden looks gorgeous, and I was hoping to show you the daylilies, but it's just too wet. So I thought, well, I'll come in here and get swarmed by plants, which is kind of a fun thing to be able to say. Books today. I have not organized my thoughts, clearly. I forgot my phone at the camp, and it's throwing me off a little bit because I have timers going all day long when I'm supposed to do this and when I'm supposed to do that, because some things are time sensitive, and it's throwing me off because I have to be responsible for my own thinking now, and now I'm, oh my God. I finished the trilogy. Return of the Trickster, which is by Eden Robinson, and I love this series. I really do. It's geared to young adult, but if you like the kind of fantasy, magic, First Nations kind of setting, it's definitely geared to adults, and in that regard. Now, so we have got Jared, who turns out that we discovered this in the first, we're pretty sure about it in the first book, but in the second book for sure we discover who his father is, and it's not really a spoiler. Return of the Trickster. And the Trickster, of course, has done his usual shenanigans along the way and has made Jared's mom, who is a witch, less than welcoming to anything that has to do with the Trickster. There are other people who want to get hold of Jared because he is who he is, and so they're hoping to somehow coerce him into being on their side and using his powers to facilitate their needs, except Jared is the most reluctant magical person. In all my years of reading fantasy and that sort of genre, he really does not want to be who he is. And so we spent 3 books with Trickster, or Jared, trying to come to terms with who his parents are, what his life is like, inebriated in book 1, sobering up in book 2, having a hell of a time in book 3 with someone harmed him with alcohol, and as he's getting more accustomed to who he is, he still just doesn't want to use his powers. He's just really reluctant to learn all about it because he sees people around him either really, really angry because they have been used or harmed in some fashion, or he sees them abusing it. So he's got zero interest in this. But as his found family and real family are gathering around to try and protect him, he's starting to realize, I have to take some responsibility here, because not only are they protecting me, but I am potentially harming them by being so passive. So this is, it's a coming of age story in a way. It's a coming of power story. It's really interesting sorts of magic, and I'm going to call it anti-magic, because it isn't really magic. It isn't, I guess there are charms and hexes and so on, but it's inherent in the world. It isn't sort of like the Harry Potter thing where you have to learn everything in order to be able to execute your power. You've got your power, and then it's just a question of becoming one with it, I guess, or just accepting. And of course, there's always the good side and the bad side. And but what is so amazing about this series is that we're seeing into the supernatural worlds of First Nation stories, and they aren't. Although it's set on the West Coast, that doesn't necessarily contain it to the West Coast stories and magical systems and so on. I think in a way it would be more a bit plains tribes storylines and. Well, so this is a second reading through for me. When I read first book ages ago, didn't realize it was a trilogy, and read the second one when it came out and thought, it's going to be, the third book's going to be any minute. But I took ages to read the third book. I never did. And then I realized, oh wow, that's something I meant to do again. And so it's taken me years to get to the third book. I really loved it. There was a couple moments where I was a little impatient with Jared, and I thought, oh, come on, like, we're in the third book, get your act together. The parents around him and grandparents, again, it was a little bit of impatience with some of them, because Jared just somehow opted into cluelessness as sort of what you call it. You know how some people deliberately don't learn in order to be really competent at being incompetent? That was Jared's method. And so again, with the parents and the adults around him, I thought, don't assume he understands. This kid, he needs a blackboard, he needs white chalk, he needs you to write it down, because he is just not getting the subtleties that people are going in there. People would say to him things like, oh, come on, you must understand by now. And he'd be, la, la, la. Well, because he had disengaged. And so, yeah. In fact, several times I thought to myself, I'm not getting it either. so there was a little bit of assumptions going on, which I thought didn't help. Yeah, I think Jared was the kind of kid who he needed it to be fairly straightforward. His girl, Sarah, who is and isn't his girlfriend, she is also magical, and coming to terms with, sorry, you know what I laugh about those kinds of cars? They're the biggest noise, but they're the smallest, crappiest cars on the road. It's like, oh boy, that's a misplaced ego. So anyways, Sarah's trying to come to terms with finding someone who's going to teach her about her magic, because she wants to know, she wants to go there, but she's a risk taker, and so some of her risks land her in some pretty dire straits, and so Sarah and Jared occasionally have to bail each other out. And of course, Trickster. Where is Trickster in all of this? Well, he's there and he's not there, and is he useful or isn't he useful? And there's times where he does something, and in typical Trickster way, it's a double-edged sword. So it might help or seem to help, but then when you actually stop and look at the whole situation, you just think, maybe we didn't need Trickster's help. So it's a very lively series. I think that there's a lot of characters that you can really, become attached to. I felt affection for a lot of them. I was really sympathetic to Jared all the way through, even though he was such a teenager sometimes. He reminds me of a teenager story that I heard many years ago, where this mom was telling me that she'd said to her son, could you please load the dishwasher? It's piling up. And he looked at his mom and in all seriousness said, I did that last week. The dishes keep coming, honey. You still look, it's a daily job. So that was Jared. Okay, the other book that I read was part of my ongoing attempt to read the Newbery Award winners. And I missed it in June. I meant to do a whole little thing on it, and and I didn't. And so now I'm really disorganized, and I realized I had chosen to do 2011 and 2025, and realized I had read quite a lot of 2011, so I don't know what prompted me to do that. But I hadn't read, now is this 2025 or 2011? This is 2024, so this is a new, must have been on the honor list. The First State of Being. And Erin Estrada Kelly is absolutely a go-to author. If you've got kids and you're wondering what to get, she is really good, because one of the things she does is she has protagonists who are across the scale of, or the range of ages. So in this book, we've got a 12-year-old, a 16-year-old, and someone who's come from the future who, I think is about 18-ish. In a way, a little immature, because he's living in his future world. He's in a real protected bubble. Like really, really protected bubble. So when he comes back to 1999, which it's been his favorite year because it's sort of pre-technology, and he gets to see the world and humans. I guess it's sort of pre-computer stuff. There's cell phones, I guess, but it's before it's everywhere. It's that little moment in time where we can sort of see the past, but we kind of have an idea of what the future is going to hold, and we have no idea how it's going to overcome us. So this guy's traveled back. Now, he's traveled back against all protocols and against his mom's wishes, who is the scientist in charge of the time travel program in his generation. And so he is not where he is supposed to be. And he bumps into the two young people that you see on the cover. There's Michael, and then his babysitter, Mike, who's 12, and his babysitter, whose name is a nickname, and I can't remember exactly what it is. So the person from the future is called Ridge. And so that comes important at the end of the story as things get wrapped up. So the three of them are trying to figure out how to get this kid back to his own time frame, because his device is not working. But what he wants to do more than anything is he wants to go to a mall. In his time frame, malls completely don't exist. Things are generated by your computer, so you don't need to go shopping. Food is quite different. A food court is absolutely unheard of where he comes from. Now, he, of course, understands that he can't do anything or give away any information that would affect the future. So he's doing this dance in his head because he just doesn't know what that would be. So he has this bizarre way of communicating to the two kids. He is just... He's amusing. He's because... He's like the guy who's got the big secret, and he's the worst secret keeper in the whole world. So you've got that kind of tension happening where I can't tell you that. So the kids are trying to figure it out. There's an older brother in the story who is less than nice, he's a real obstructionist. There's an older gentleman who is very kind to Michael and has reached out in several ways to be, I guess, a stabilizer. Now, Mom is not a bad person, but she's working 3 jobs. So she's absolutely on top of her game as far as parenting goes, but is completely undermined by having to work three jobs. I don't mean undermined. I mean, it's precarious because she just can't be there all the time. And I remember when we were kind of considering whether certain lifestyle changes should happen in our house when the kids were teens, and we thought, actually this is kind of the craziest time to make big changes. Let's just keep things as stable as possible. Hormones. And so that's kind of the dilemma that Michael's mom is having. They're not in a well-to-do situation as she is working 3 jobs, and so money is definitely an issue for Michael. Stability. Now, the big kicker for Michael is 1999, Y2K. I don't know if you guys remember that. I was a little anxious myself. They had all that social media stuff going on about how the computers can't handle the number 2000. There was a part of me that thinking, it's a computer. What's the problem? And then there's another part. Yeah, but did anybody think about that? Anyhow, I was a little anxious and refused to go flying for Christmas, and boy, did I piss my mother-in-law off. But Michael is really obsessed, and it's only August, and he's starting to stockpile food. He's like really having an anxiety approach to all of this. And so he has this anxiety, and he's really after Ridge to say, like, what happens, and that can't be revealed. So, I have read a lot of Erin Estrada Kelly's, and I think she is definitely a go-to author. Now, in the course of reading this, because it was time travel, and I should look at my list, but I seem to have done a lot of time travel books. A couple of them have been audiobooks, which have really tanked out. But I think I mentioned to you in a video earlier, this book. This to me is absolutely the best time travel novel I have read, bar none. Whether adult, young adult, middle grade, it is picture books, I don't know. It is absolutely the best. I think that it has used The Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle, which I'm currently listening to on CD. I'll tell you about that in a sec. But this author, Rebecca Stead, used the logic of the time traveling in A Wrinkle in Time to sort out her own traveling characters. And so that intrigued me. I thought, I've got to go back and read that book, and realizing I never had. So, but this one has got two girls, Miranda. She starts receiving mysterious notes that she doesn't know what to do with. They tell her that she must write a letter, a true story, that she can't share her mission with anyone, not even her former best friend, Saul. It would be easy to ignore the strange messages, except that whoever is leaving them seems to be able to predict the future. And if that's the case, Miranda has an even bigger problem, because the notes tell her that someone needs saving, and she might be too late to help. So, it's really intriguing. I got really, really tense during it. I was worried for Miranda. I was worried about who was it that she had to save. And of course the time traveling was an issue, because I'm not trying, now I can't remember exactly. I don't think she's the one who actually travels, but I think that she's part of the pathway that allows for time travel if she achieves what she's supposed to achieve. So I think this is a brilliant book. Now, what else has she written? I don't think I've read her other books. Well, now I have a new project. She's also written Goodbye Stranger, Liar and Spy, First Light, The List of Things That Will Not Change. So, yay! That'll be fun for the winter, just pick up her books. So, Wrinkle in Time, CD. Yes, I have had the worst time on Libby and Hoopla. I have reached out to friends and asked for suggestions. A lot of them don't, well, they do. They use Hoopla, but not as much as Libby. And what I realized is a lot of my friends are reading the kinds of books that I'm just not interested. They're sort of 12-book long series of mysteries or romance or a little bit of supernatural stuff. So it's that kind of stuff I can read. I can read because I go fairly quickly, and I can just buy in and let reality kind of go. If I'm reading about so one of them was a knitting store, and in the basement of the knitting store there were vampires, and every Wednesday night they had a knitting club. So it was amusing, at least, and I did finish that book. But the next one, it doesn't make sense when I'm hearing it. When I'm reading it, I'm very clearly, my brain has done all the kinetic things it needs to do to go, I am not in reality. But if I'm listening to something while I'm washing the dishes, then that doesn't make any sense. I'm too sensible. So then I saw I went up into the middle grade section at the library, and they have this whole section of classic books that are on CD, and I thought, I have an old CD player. So I dragged it out, and I'm listening to it. Oh my gosh, it's like a light bulb has gone off in my head. There's a whole lot of books I can just go get on CD, and my CD player is not very big, about that big, and I think it runs on batteries, might even be able to take it to the camp. And a lot better than Libby, because at least on Libby, I'm finding books that are like third or fourth choice for me. So the other day I was going for, I'm not sure you say her first name, Nio Marsh, Ngaih, I think. Anyway, she's a classic mystery author, and I thought, oh, for sure, I should be able to find her. Nada. It was all in German and Spanish. Then I thought, okay, who's the other one? Dorothy Sayers? Yeah. I thought, come on. I was really getting angry. So, yeah, I'm going to head back to the old-fashioned CDs and just see what happens. All right, I think that's it for me today. I hope all you're reading... I was going to say something else. Oh, I had a whole clever thing in there, but it didn't work out. I'll save it. I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true, and I will see you next time, probably from the camp. So who knows what the technology will be like. Remember, I warn you in advance, the technology at the camp is pretty sketchy. Take care.